So, the reason why I'm talking about this particular subject is because, you know, I want people to see like this isn't the truth. Like there's no natural love. Like people feel compelled to take care of the poor. But for some reason, people do not feel that same energy within the congregation. So, as mentioned before in my previous videos, that I grew up in a single parent household, and I did slightly mention that my mom wasn't really financially literate, and honestly, she's just very poor with money. See, the problem with my mother is that she was taken care of by my grandfather, her father, and when my grandfather passed away, she was kind of like thrown into the ocean and was forced to learn how to swim. And unfortunately, she had a child, along with her. So I always, we always struggled, you know. Um, we struggled a lot. I would use, field service in the summer times as a means to get food, you know, whether one of the sisters will end up buying me lunch, or I would just go to a family member's or another friend's house and we'll eat there, you know. Um, it was really hard growing up, and the elders, they were aware. They were aware of the stuff that my mom was going through. And the thing about people that are poor, they usually hang out with other poor people. And then they get poor advice from them. And then they just end up in this circle of poverty, you know? And then unfortunately, my husband didn't have the same experience. A lot of the congregation that he went to, they were well off and they all have businesses and stuff. Whereas the congregation that I went to, everyone was poor, very poor, had mental issues. So my mom would hang out with these other single sisters who were struggling. One sister in particular, she would take advantage of my mom. She would definitely take advantage of my mom. My mom basically kind of grew up as a witness, so she didn't really have that hustle mindset, whereas the other sisters, she didn't grow up as a witness, and she was a hustler. She used to hustle even the kids to get them to give her money. It was pretty hilarious thinking back on it, but it was something I would never practice as an adult. The way she would hustle her children's friends out of money from our parents. And it's sad because my mom really didn't even have that much money to give me, and somehow she would end up taking that money. Well, fast forward, I think the one thing that really stood out to me is that when we didn't have any food, my mom would have to go to the Catholic charities and go get food from them. Not the brothers in the hall, not the sister pioneers, who probably really didn't have much money themselves thinking about it. But there was no funding set aside for people that were struggling, you know? And my mom and I were very active within the congregation. So I didn't understand why they didn't help us. You know, I see so many church and like really taking the time to research other religions and stuff. They have things set aside for the poor members within their congregation, but with witnesses is really there's nothing set aside for us. I think what really made me step back and look at my religion as a whole as well was when I was in college, and my mother didn't pay the electric bill for like 6 months. And there's a thing in my state that they can't turn the electric off in the winter time. So all winter she didn't pay the electric bill. So the electric bill racked up to like $1,500. She just didn't have the money. She couldn't pay it. So I didn't have a job because I was at school full time. And I had to study under the street light for an entire half a year, 6 months, study for my exam, study to get the degree that I now have, because she just couldn't afford it. Now, and this is why I do believe God is real. Maybe not within that organization, but we didn't get our electric turned back on until it started getting cold again. So the moment it got to like 50 degrees at night, that's when my mom was able to turn on the electric. But that whole time, the whole summer, I sat in darkness. It was the year that Planet of the Apes came out, and I remember that specifically because I remember my friend invited me out to go to the movies, and she was like, "Oh, you want to see Planet of the Apes?" And I'm like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Kind of not," because I seen the old Planet of the Apes, and I didn't want to see it. She was like, "It's all over TV," but she didn't know like I was coming home to darkness, and this is before like smartphones and internet access, so I had no idea what was going on in the world. So, um, and the only reason why she was able to get it on was because of the Catholic charities. And then I remember, and then the people in the congregation were aware of my situation. And I remember I told one of my friends that wasn't a witness about, the stuff that we were going through. And she came to my house once our electric came back on, and she had bags of groceries. Why didn't that happen with the congregation? Why do we have to look to the Catholics to help us? And then simultaneously passing out watchtowers on the weekends telling people how bad the Catholic Church is, but the Catholic Church was the one that kept me fed. The Catholic Church is the one that put my electricity back on. But why can't the congregation do that? I remember watching one of those exjw videos, and the brother said that he was trying to put some funding together for like the single women, the single people within the congregation that were struggling, and the branch called him and told him to stop. I remember being out in service and saying to the sisters like, "Oh, well, they actually need food, or they actually need this, they actually need like something substantial to like actually help them." And they would say, "No, we only give them spiritual food." What? They actually need this stuff to survive, but the only thing you're going to provide them is words from the Bible, because words from the Bible fill you up spiritually that you don't actually need actual food, according to them. That's insane. I said this in the last video, but like, why did I stay in this religion so long? That is something that like really, really scarred me. Like, how are we supposed to be an organization about love and you can't even make sure I eat? Or you can't even make sure that I have a place to change at, or a place to shower at, or hot water, or even, and the elders in my hall, they weren't poor. Like, they were driving Benzes. They were driving Lexuses. They were driving BMWs. And not that I was deserving of any of their money, but I'm like, shouldn't the congregation have some funding inside to help us in some type of situation? Like, it just, and my mom wasn't irresponsible with money on the fact that she was doing drugs or buying a bunch of clothes or anything like that. And I mean irresponsible, I mean like she just didn't make enough money. I guess they just thought that I should just drop out of college and then go get a full-time job making $10 an hour and only have that aspiration in life and then be in the same circle of poverty again. But I absolutely refuse that. And actually, you know what? Even though that was a terrible experience, I'm glad that's a part of my story, because that's a story I can share with other people that, I went through college and I studied under the street light for half a year because my mom just couldn't afford the bill. And not a single person in that hall helped us. So anyway, so that's the end of that story. There's more to come. I don't know why I stayed this long. But there's so much more I can talk about. But yeah. Till the next video.